OKC just took down the Denver Nuggets in a crazy Game 7, and now they're going to face the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. Who's going to come away with it and why? Here are the 3 questions that I think will decide that series. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Court Vision. Like I said, in this video, I'm going to give you my 3 biggest questions that I think are going to define the Western Conference Finals. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. Without further ado, let's jump into it. First question I have for this series is really all about Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, and specifically how good are they going to be offensively. You know, both of these guys have been great defensively all postseason, and I don't really have any questions about their impact on that side of the floor, but offensively, there's a little more of a question going into this series. Starting with JDub, he's been pretty bad in the postseason offensively overall, especially in that Nuggets series. He was very inconsistent. He just hasn't been able to finish his shots, even if he's been able to, find his spots and get to shots that he likes. To me, it feels like the game just is very fast for him, which is something you see a lot with young players, right? He's had 20 points per game and 6 assists, but only 52% true shooting and just 25% from 3 in this postseason run. It's just not good enough efficiency for a guy that OKC is relying on to be their second option. In the series against Denver, he had a couple explosive games, but over the course of the series, he just didn't shoot very well at all. 37.5% from the field and under 24% from 3. That efficiency simply just needs to pick up going into this Western Conference Finals series. He's been able to get to his spots, like I said, and I think he's actually been really underrated as like a patient passer in the pick and roll when he's running the offense with Shea off the floor. But like his shooting and his rim finishing just look really off. He's only shooting 47% at the rim in that Denver series, when over a third of his shots come from the rim. He's missed some layups, missed some dunks in transition. Another thing to consider is his offense has really been driven by his transition play. He's scoring 1.24 points per possession in transition on 4.2 possessions a game in this postseason. His speed and his athleticism in the open court combined with what I think is some underrated transition passing make him like a real weapon. And he was a big part of OKC winning the transition battle so much against Denver in that series. But Minnesota has been the second best transition defense in this postseason. Just allowing 108 points per 100 possessions on transition plays defensively. And they've also been the best statistical team defending off of steals, which is where a lot of OKC's transition possessions come from. So how effective is Jalen Williams going to be without being able to run in transition and get those easy transition points as much? Then moving over to Chet Holmgren, he's had a pretty solid playoffs, if nothing spectacular. 16 points per game, but not like crazy efficiency. 45% from the field, 32% from 3. He's operated a lot as a pick and pop threat or as a roll man in the pick and roll. He's been a good floor spacer, spotting up. He's also played a lot as a lob threat or a play finisher out of the dunker spot, and he's been effective at all of those things. Something that stuck out to me, though, was his off-the-dribble scoring in the last few games of that Denver series was beginning to look really, really good. Him attacking closeouts or driving on Aaron Gordon or Jokic in space. He was able to provide a lot of important buckets in certain stretches when OKC's offense was stagnating. Him offensively at the 5, with just him on the floor, no Isaiah Hartenstein single big, was actually the best lineup offensively for OKC in these playoffs. The offensive rating with him on and Hartenstein off was 127.7, which is elite numbers. With both of them on, it's 106.4, not as good. And then with Chet off and Hartenstein on, it was 117.8. So clearly him at the 5 is the best look offensively. But how much of that offensive impact will hold up against Minnesota's defense with their double big and with Rudy Gobert on the other side? Is he able to take Rudy Gobert off the dribble and be able to pull him out to the perimeter with his shooting threat? If he's able to do those things, that would neutralize Gobert as a defender a little bit. But it really depends on how well he scores off the dribble and how well he shoots. Like I said, 32% from 3 in the postseason hasn't been great. But in the regular season, since the trade deadline, it was 38%. So you would expect that to come up a little bit. My second question for this series is a simple one. And it's just, can either of these teams remember how to shoot from beyond the arc? Both of these teams have shot extremely inconsistently from 3. OKC is just shooting 32% as a team from 3 in the postseason, and then Minnesota just 35%. But the thing that stuck out most to me was the deviation. OKC's three-point standard deviation is 7.3%. They have good and bad shooting games in the postseason, but that's nothing compared to Minnesota's, which is 12.7%, which means they get super hot in certain games and just shoot teams out of the building, but then they will also go ice cold in others and lose them just off of poor shooting. I remember they had a couple games below like 18% from three, but they also had a couple games above 50% from three. Both teams are going to load up on each other's star players, and that will give open three-point opportunities. We saw what Denver did loading up on Shea, which generated plenty of looks for OKC. And we saw the Lakers and Warriors do the same thing to Anthony Edwards, which did the same thing for Minnesota. So whoever shoots better as a team will have a big advantage in this series. Minnesota, like I said, won a lot of games off of just hot shooting, but OKC has managed to win despite some cold shooting in certain games. But they also probably would have beaten Denver in 5 or 6 games if they were shooting better as a team. So whichever team shoots better will have a huge, huge advantage. My third and final question for this series is, what does Minnesota's offense look like with Ant and Randle off the ball? OKC are going to load up and try and take away Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle as much as possible with their crazy help schemes. So other guys are just going to have to step up as initiators and running the offense. Talking about Ant off-ball operating, he's a great shooting threat off the ball. When he's spotting up, he's got 1.29 points per possession in the postseason, which is very good. But something that worries me a little bit is on off-screen play types, which is lifting off of pin downs, these types of plays off the ball. He's just 0.89 points per possession and only shooting 43% from the field on those possessions. So he's been great attacking closeouts and as a catch and shoot guy, but he's been inefficient in his other off-ball opportunities, which is something to think about when you're going up against this OKC defense. Randle off the ball, I have a fewer concerns about. He's a great screener in this Minnesota offense. He's been used as a screener in pick and roll and other screen actions with a lot of success by Minnesota for a good portion of the season. He's a good short roll playmaker, and he can be a pick and pop threat too. In the playoffs as a pick and roll man, he's got 1.5 points per possession, which is a crazy, crazy high number. Really, really elite. He'll be able to stay involved as a screener and as a roll man, even if his post game or his bully ball kind of style of play is denied a little bit more by OKC's defense. But without these guys having the ball in their hands, we're going to see a lot more of Mike Conley, maybe if the Minnesota Timberwolves are willing to go to him, or Dante DiVincenzo running the point and handling the ball in the pick and roll. We're going to have to see how well Dante and Naz Reid are able to shoot off the dribble and create their own offense like that. And then we're going to see more unconventional or creative stuff from Minnesota's offense. Chris Finch is, in my opinion, one of the more creative offensive coaches, and I think he'll come up with some good stuff. Maybe some big screens or like inverted pick and roll with Naz Reid, or allowing Jaden McDaniels a little more leash to hunt mismatches on some smaller defenders, things like this. Minnesota's offense, I anticipate, will also try to focus on transition as well. They're a very big physical team, and so if they can generate turnovers off of their defense, get out and run, and then push their pace, that will allow them to kind of lift their offense without getting stuck as much in the mud half court against this OKC defense. And then the other big concern for Minnesota's offense with other guys handling the ball is turning it over. Everyone for Minnesota needs to not turn over the ball. If Ant and Randle don't have the ball in their hands, you have to wonder how much ball security will there be with some of these other guys. Those are all the questions I have for this series. Thank you everybody for watching. If you watched this far in the video, remember to like and subscribe. That's the second time I plugged it in this video, but got to do what you got to do for the YouTube algorithm. I will catch you guys with some more videos coming up in the future. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.